Hey guys, here are 3 true stalker horror stories to give you the chills tonight. Before I start, many of you watching haven't subscribed. By subscribing, you would support me by growing the channel and become part of the Haunted Midnight community. So I kindly ask you once again, please subscribe and like this video. Thank you for listening. Looking back now, it all started innocently enough. I was 14, a she freshman girl eager to make friends at my new high school. In my third period biology class, we had assigned seats arranged in rows. Luckily, 2 of my good friends sat right next to me. In the seat directly in front of me sat a boy I didn't know named E. He was quiet, kept to himself. I never heard him speak except when the teacher called on him, or occasionally he'd mumble under his breath. I didn't pay much attention to E, too busy chatting away endlessly with my friends when the teacher allowed it. The one thing I did notice was that E always kept a Bible open on his desk, reading it intently when he should have been paying attention to the lesson. Religion is common where I'm from, and I'm a Christian myself, but I still found it odd how fixated he seemed on that book. Little did I know the role it would later play. 4 weeks into the new semester, I received a surprising text from a girl I'll call G, another classmate of mine though we weren't close friends. She said E had approached her after biology and asked for my phone number. Confused, I asked who he even was until she explained he was the quiet boy who sat in front of me. I was shocked he wanted my number when we'd never spoken a word to each other. Before I could process this information, an unknown number texted me. It was E. He introduced himself apologetically, saying he was too shy to approach me directly. At first, I thought it was sweet he wanted to get to know me, but the conversational tone quickly shifted. He confessed he'd been listening to me talk with my friends in class and claimed to have fallen in love with me. He said he knew I was sent by God specifically for him. I panicked, realizing he'd been eavesdropping on private conversations. Who knows what else he'd overheard? I blocked E's number, but he persisted in bombarding my phone all night with texts begging me to date him. His obsessive persistence terrified me. After that endless night, the messages finally stopped. I hoped that would be the end of my interaction with E. But over 2 years later, in my junior year, the stalking resumed. After marching band practice one day, I checked my email to find a message sent to my school account. My heart dropped when I saw it was from E in the message. He professed his love and desire to be with me. I felt sick reading his words, so freely given after years of silence. I was certain E must have transferred or dropped out, but here he was, emailing me out of the blue. Later that same day, another longer message appeared in my inbox. E spoke of making amends for lies he had told long ago, though he gave no context as to who or what he lied about. He claimed he wished to talk to me in person. Thoroughly unnerved, I showed the emails to my friends. They advised me to tell E clearly and directly to stop contacting me. So I sent a reply stating just that. Relief washed over me when I received no response, but soon the fear resurged. I noticed E staring at me in the school hallways when our paths crossed. Over a week later, he emailed again. This time, he wrote cryptically of sin and repentance. Most disturbingly, he spoke of me maintaining my virtue and only finding joy in being with him. Though on devout too, his twisted use of religion to control me felt like a violation. My friends agreed E's behavior seemed dangerous, so I nervously reported him to the school counselor. She promised to intervene, saying if he kept harassing me it could warrant punishment. I left her office, tremendously relieved. Sure enough, E sent one final email shortly after. He thanked me for exposing his inappropriate behavior, claiming it had silenced him for over a month, but now he felt ready to speak out again. He said he hoped I would continue to make public his misdeeds. I did not intend to satisfy that request. For a while afterwards, I worried he might resume his obsessive emails. But that disturbing message was his last attempt to contact me. A year later, in my senior year, I stumbled across a shocking Facebook post. He had gone missing after running away from home with nothing but his Bible in hand. To this day, he remains missing. Knowing he is out there somewhere still terrifies me, even years later with no further contact. I'm grateful I found the courage to speak up when I did. Who knows what E might have tried to do if left unchecked. I hope my story gives other girls in similar situations the push to tell someone. Stalking should never be tolerated, no matter the supposed motivation behind it. I was just a 15-year-old kid who had no business being out late in one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Milwaukee. But that night, my mom was drunk and sending out to go buy snacks and food for the next morning. I had moved to Milwaukee from the Dominican Republic with my mom just 11 months earlier, and my English was still very limited. I hoped my broken English would be enough to get by if I ran into any trouble. People always said I looked older than I was, maybe because of the scars on my bald head, or the fact that I already stood 5'8", tall, at just 15. It was a cold November night, around 9 p.m., when Mom gave me $25 cash and her food stamp card and sent me to the liquor store 9 blocks away. She was going out and wanted me to stock up on food. I felt nervous walking alone with all that money at night in that rough neighborhood. I kept hearing faint gunshots in the distance, reminding me to stay alert. When I arrived at the liquor store, there were 2 teenage guys already inside, looking around my age. One was short with a mini afro, wearing Timberlands, baggy jeans, and an orange jacket. The other had a high-top fade haircut with a black Iverson jersey and baggy pants. I tried to avoid eye contact, but could immediately feel their glare as I walked inside. The clerk was completely oblivious, not even glancing up from his magazine as I entered. The 2 teens whispered to each other as I nervously browsed the aisles, taking my time and hoping they would leave. But they stood frozen, intently focused on me. After a few minutes, I worked up the courage to open the refrigerator by where they stood. As soon as I did, the shorter one aggressively whispered, "Give me your money." My broken English reply of sorry, no money did not seem to satisfy them. The taller teen demanded again in a harsh tone, "Risk money." Alarmed and outnumbered, I quickly backed away while they glared at me enraged. The clerk was still ignorantly engrossed in his magazine. I feared for my life in those tense moments. The teens looked ready to attack if I made any sudden moves. Sensing impending violence, I decided my only option was to get out fast. I dropped my snacks and rushed for the door. The angry teens watched me exit, with their hands pressed together in a threatening gesture. I speed-walked anxiously down the sidewalk, praying they weren't following me. I took a chance and glanced back after a minute, only to see the 2 teens marching after me, staring intensely in my direction. I panicked and darted down the nearest alley, hoping I could lose them between the buildings. Almost immediately, I heard one of them shout from behind, "We're gonna kill your ass." I looked back again to see the short teen pulling a gun from his waistband. My heart dropped as he fired 2 quick shots in my direction. I took off in a full sprint, running purely on adrenaline and fear for my life. The teen's footsteps echoed behind me as they gave chase. I didn't dare turn around again. I just focused on running as fast as I possibly could. By some miracle, they didn't fire any more shots. I eventually saw the glowing sign of a Popeye's restaurant up ahead and made a beeline for it. I barged through the doors out of breath and made straight for the bathroom, locking myself in a stall to hide. For 30 agonizing minutes I sat there, listening for any sign of the angry teens. When I finally convinced myself the coast was clear, I sheepishly exited the bathroom. The cashier gave me a puzzled look and asked if I was okay. In shock, I muttered that I was fine and hurried back outside, hoping to find a quick way home. By chance, I came across an unlocked bike nearby and quickly hopped on. I pedaled as fast as my legs allowed, constantly scanning for any sign of the teens. The 9-block bike ride home remains a blur. I remember my heart pounding the whole time. When I got home, Mom drunkenly asked where the food was. I lied that the store was closed. I didn't tell her or anyone about what happened that night. I was too scared and didn't want to deal with cops. In the following months, I still went to the same liquor store during the day. I never saw those teens again. We ended up moving to a different neighborhood about 7 months later. It's been 14 years now, but I still vividly remember that terrifying night. I guess I'll never know why those teens were so set on attacking me. But I feel extremely lucky to have made it out of there alive. Milwaukee only got more dangerous in the years after. Now 30, I'm long gone from that area and city. My English has improved drastically over the years. but the memory of those angry teens with guns still shakes me to my core. I'm just grateful the shots missed me so I can share this cautionary tale. Stay safe out there. The first encounter happened when I was 11 years old. It was a sunny Saturday morning and my best friend Jaden and I were at the neighborhood park. We lived on the same street and would often meet up to play at the park, which was just down the road from our houses. Jaden and I were taking turns on the swings, seeing who could swing higher. Out of nowhere, this teenage boy who looked about 15 or 16 years old rode up on his bicycle. He was tall and lanky, with shaggy brown hair. The boy circled around us slowly on his bike a couple of times. Jaden and I exchanged puzzled looks, wondering why he kept riding by. After his fourth loop past the swings, the mysterious boy coasted up towards us and stopped his bike. Without a word, he held out a folded piece of paper to me. I hesitantly took it from his hand. He then pedaled off in the other direction. Jaden and I looked at each other, confused and a little unsettled. I unfolded the paper to find an address written inside along with the message. Come to my house for a surprise. Jaden and I immediately felt freaked out. We dropped the paper on the ground and took off running all the way back to my house. My heart was racing as we rushed inside. I tried to convince myself that the boy had just been trying to make a friendly gesture, but something about the situation felt very off and creepy. Over the next year or two, Jaden and I would occasionally see the teenage boy riding his bicycle around our neighborhood. He definitely lived in the area. I always got an uneasy feeling in my stomach when I caught sight of him pedaling by. My next encounter happened when I was walking home alone from Jaden's house. Since we lived on the same street, it was less than a 10-minute walk between our houses. As I strolled down the sidewalk, I sensed a bike approaching from behind. Glancing back, I immediately recognized the stalker boy. He was riding slowly, his eyes locked on me in an unsettling stare. As he passed by, I felt relieved that he hadn't stopped. I continued on towards my house. Just as I reached my front steps, I heard someone shout, "Hey." I spun around to see the stalker boy waving and calling out to me from astride his bicycle. My heart skipped a beat. I rushed inside and told my parents about him, but they reassured me that he was probably just autistic and trying to make friends. I wanted to believe them, but his focus on me felt creepy and wrong. My third alarming encounter happened as I was walking to the neighborhood market one day. As I strolled down the street, I noticed the stalker boy loitering on the grass divider ahead. As I drew nearer, my pulse quickened. I kept my eyes down, hoping he would ignore me if I just walked by quickly. But as I passed the grassy median, he began striding towards me. "What's your name?" he asked, coming uncomfortably close. My mind raced, unsure what to do. I lied and told him Hannah. I needed to get away from him, so I turned and walked in the opposite direction of my house. My heart thudded as he followed behind me. He asked where I was going. I lied again, saying I was going to my friend's house. He pressed for my friend's name, but I ignored him. "You really need to come with me," he insisted in a chilling tone. My breath caught in my throat. I told him no. I had to get to my friend's house, and I took off running. I could hear his footsteps trailing me for a couple blocks before they faded away. I wound my way through side streets until I was sure I had lost him. I cautiously made my way back home, terrified he would reappear. I told my dad what happened, but again he didn't seem overly concerned, saying the boy was probably harmless. My encounters with the stalker boy went on like this for some time, always leaving me rattled and hypervigilant. When I started high school, I was dismayed to spot the stalker boy loitering by one of the school buildings. He blended in with a group of other teens, but I recognized him right away. He never approached me on school grounds, however. I learned through overhearing conversations that his real name was not actually Jay like the note had claimed. My last encounter occurred just a year ago, when I was in my early 20s. I was headed to meet some friends at a cafe located next to the neighborhood church. As I got closer, my stomach dropped to see the stalker boy standing there on the sidewalk. Well, over a decade had passed, yet there he was, glaring at me just like before. I immediately called my friends to warn them. As I neared the church, the stalker boy began following me on foot. I resisted the urge to break into a panicked run, not wanting him to know how rattled I was. I could sense him tailing me from a distance, all the way to the cafe. As soon as I stepped into the church parking lot, he halted his pursuit and stood there glowering at me from across the street. My friends arrived shortly after, and I jumped into the car, intensely relieved to be safely away from him. I've since moved across the country for college and work. I hope I never cross paths with that disturbing stalker boy again, though the traumatic memories of him still lurk in the back of my mind. His unexplained obsession with me remains a deeply unsettling mystery. I'm just grateful I can walk around my new city without constantly glancing over my shoulder for him. If you enjoyed these stories, share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you had similar encounters, please share your experiences too. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe as it supports me a lot.